Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas Acharei Mos in zt'l and Kedoshim in Eretz Yisrael. The name of the two parshas together caused me to change a little bit and commemorate the passing of one of the Gedolim of the generation, the Kaliver Rebbe. So Acharei Mos, after his death of Kedoshim, of one of the Kedoshim, we're going to discuss a little bit about his life, so that would fit with the parsha's names, and a technique for long life that he shared and applied to him, because he passed away at 96 years old. So clearly it did work for him. And I had the zechus to meet the Kaliver Rebbe about 3 years ago. I was in Eretz Yisrael and I was taking a tour with a Rav to meet various Gedolim in Yerushalayim. And as we were approaching the world headquarters of the Kaliver Rebbe, my driver, guide, he said, "Would you like to meet the Kaliver Rebbe?" I said, "Absolutely," because I'd never heard of the Kaliver Rebbe until just a few days beforehand. I happened to come across a YouTube video about the Kaliver Rebbe. So I said, now I have a chance to meet this gadol in person. So of course I took it. And a little bit of his background: he was born in Transylvania, and he went to various concentration camps during the Shoah, during the Holocaust, and he lost his entire family, his parents, his siblings, but he miraculously saved. And one of the stories was that he was right outside the crematoria, and he said a Shema Yisrael, Tefillah Hashem, and he thought, Hashem, if this is my last chance to say Kriya Shema, that's it. But if I live, I can do it many more times and do it with many more people. And a miracle occurred, and he was pulled away to a work detail, and he was not killed. And he went through his life fulfilling this deal. And at the end of each of his lectures, ranging from a few people to hundreds or even thousands, he would conclude with a loud and concentrated Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And that was part of his lifelong goal of doing curative work with people, because he was experimented on by Dr. Mendel, Yamach Shemo v'zichro. He was not zechus to have children, and also he was not able to grow a beard that would be typical of a Hasidic Rebbe. He's distinctive with his payas, and he's someone special and to meet. And one of the things that one of the stories that I heard from his gabbai, Rabbi Kirschenbaum, who had been his gabbai, who'd come in every day from Bnei Brak to Yerushalayim. He was with him for decades, and the gabbai would give a shir of Daf Yomi on the bus. And I don't remember the exact details anymore, but you'll get the gist of it. And they were making a siyum on some Masechta, and he was thanking everyone for their role. And the Chiloni bus driver said, "Don't forget to include me. You have to include me." And he said, "Why?" So he said, "Because you see this picture of this infant? This infant, I'm not religious, but my daughter became religious, but for a number of years she wasn't able to have children. She went to the Kaliver Rebbe. The Kaliver Rebbe told her to study a certain amount of Hilchas Shabbos, by each Shabbos meal, or which is what he told me, to use as a segula for my bracha, and this baby was just born a little while ago because of the Rebbe." So, this is just one story that I heard, and there's more I could tell you about the Rebbe. I ended up meeting him a third time a few days later. And he, even there, when I reintroduced myself, figuring he wouldn't remember me, he said Ben Gittel. He remembered my mother's name, meaning that he was either praying for her or at least has a very good memory and thinks about people. So he went around. Firstly, he was able to speak English to me because he spent a little bit of time in Cleveland. He established his Hasidic headquarters first in Rishon LeZion for Kiruv, and then moved to Bnei Brak, and then about, I think, 17 years in the early 2000s, he built his world headquarters in Yerushalayim. And so I figured this is a very special person to discuss, given the passing. He's an Acharei Mos Kedoshim. Now the segula he has is, because I noticed it again as I was doing a little chazar, because when he's passing, I figured it's appropriate in his zechus to read from his svarim. So one of them is the Kol Menachem series, is 13 volumes, but I have the second volume. It's Hilchas Shabbos. He asks a question, has an answer, and then gives a little bit of an explanation of what the rationale for the answer is on the bottom of the page. Also, there's the English. They gave me a sefer Maoros HaShabbos, and for each meal to learn 2 halachos from each one as a segula for having a family and children, healthy children, for me and for others. But anyhow, his segula, if I'll just read from Nicole Menachem, says the importance of that Shnai mekarev Targum as a way to get long life. He says today that there's so many people that are looking for different segulos for long life. So what's better than to do something of Torah? Shnai mikra means to learn 2 psukim of Chumash, read it, and it says b'havana, b'kavana gedola, with understanding and intense concentration, and then say the words in Targum Ungulis. And he says, Kol hamashlim parshios v'metzibur marichan lo yamav v'shnosav. Anyone who completes all the parshios of Shnai mekarev Targum with the tzibur, he will have long life. And again, this clearly worked for him. He lived to be 96 years old. And so therefore he says everyone should make sure to be very careful to do this as something that you don't violate chok v'lo yavor. You're going to never miss it. So, and it says one of the additional benefits is that someone who, you'll know the psukim of the Torah by repeating it. Otherwise, you'll hear psukim, and even as you get older, and you're like, oh, I didn't know about that. So, finally, in his commentary, that people are looking for all these different techniques to get certain benefits. There's nothing better for a person than Torah. That'll elongate people's lives. Hashem Yisbarach Yivarach of Israel, Barichas Yom Hashoah V'Tovim, that Hashem should bless His people with long years and days. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful Shabbos.